What's up, soul family? I'm again. Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for tuning in and joining. And also, I just wanted to address one more time. I posted about this a couple times, so I been working on my website, and it's been a doozy because I've had to train myself on how to do all the development on it, and because I couldn't afford a developer to do it, so it's been a painstaking process, nonetheless. So that being said, just bear with me. I do apologize that you've had to wait so long and everything like that. So moving on, let's know why my camera's acting funny. That's weird. Maybe perhaps I need to make some space. All right, let's try this again. I had some weird lag going on there, so I went through and cleared out a bunch of stuff. Anyways, let's get to it. So first things first, what I want to talk about is I've been working on a program that's a course that'll be available on my website once that gets done. It's for shadow work, so it's an entire course that you can take that's in the format of a journal, right? So you'll have the opportunity to not only download the journal, but on the site, if you get a membership, the membership will unlock and give you access to a user profile, and that user profile you'll be able to customize, put a picture in there, do your name, have your login information and all that. So once you do that, you will gain access to the membership area where you gain access to the shadow journal. There will be a dream journal available as well. I've worked a long time on the Shadow Nexus Shadow Journal. Just to be clear, this channel is Arcane Nexus, okay? My website is not Arcane Nexus. It is Shadow Nexus, because my website focuses on doing shadow work and all the personality traits pertaining to the shadow. A lot of my practices are from Dr. Carl Jung. I'm not sure if a lot of you might be familiar with Dr. Carl Jung. Some of you might not be. So a lot of my shadow work is based off of Dr. Carl Jung's work, and what I've done is I've taken what I've learned from Dr. Carl Jung, and I've built my own course to help the collective and other people who come to my website and who are interested to take a deep dive into what shadow work is actually all about. And that's facing the hidden trauma aspects of ourself. That's broke down into 4 different categories of personality types. I'm not going to go over all that right now. I just wanted to put that out there, that's something that I highly recommend doing. I spent I spent a year designing it before I even took action on trying to get the website started. So I've been actually perfecting that course, and it is finally finished. There's some other things that will fall in place with that that'll correlate and whatnot. So that being said, I understand that the times that we're in right now are the energy collectively worldwide is really, really heavy, right? And that presents a lot of challenges because we have a lot of incoming galactic energies that are coming to the forefront. And not only just that, but we also have all the incoming energies from our grand central sun. What I mean by that is the light activation codes that are coming in from the sun, from the coronal mass ejections. It influences the frequencies of Mother Gaia. If you're not familiar with Mother Gaia, what I mean by that is planet Earth. Okay. So what do I mean exactly by it influences the energies? We're talking about frequencies because we know, and it's scientifically been proven, that the universe consists of vibration, and vibration is energy. It's another form of energy. And the Schumann resonance is Gaia's heartbeat. You can actually go look at this. Yes, our planet has its own heartbeat. And we are actually in tune with the Schumann resonance. So when the Schumann resonance spikes, it's not only just energies from coronal mass ejections, our atmosphere, it gets charged with particles from the sun. And when it does that, it also charges the ground. This has scientifically been proven. There are other studies that also show that if you walk barefoot and go outside and get grounded, I know that's hard to do for those of us that are dealing with wintertime right now, unless you're, one of the Iceman people who likes to take ice baths and stuff like that, or go up in the Himalayan mountains, etc., etc. I tried that, did it, hurt my feet. I stood in the snow for an hour. It wasn't for me. I could barely walk because I couldn't feel my feet. So, I mean, there's certain practices. I know that's a little different, but all I'm saying is that when it comes to getting grounded, for those of you who have the opportunity to do so, that aren't dealing with the harsh conditions of wintertime, then I highly suggest going out and getting grounded, because it is scientifically proven that when we go out and get grounded, it is good for our health. That's how we release the stagnant energies that are in our bodies, and it also helps us heal a lot quicker and process things a lot faster. Okay, so why am I talking about that? Why am I bringing that up right now? It's because of the fact that shadow work, dealing with trauma and hidden aspects of ourselves, right? And we're talking about ego and everything like that. Ultimately, where I'm going with this is projecting. Okay, so what shadow work talks about is it's identifying the personality types that are hidden within us, where we've tucked away the pains, the hidden traumas and stuff like that, to try to cope with life, because not all of us, let's face it, not all of us there's a lot of people out there, and a lot of us have not had the proper guidance. Not everybody has not only the mental capacity and strength, but the emotional capacity to go along with that mental capacity strength in order for us to properly in order for us to properly express ourselves in an accordingly manner, right? In an appropriate manner, And this is where I'm leaning into projecting. Projecting is, it's okay. So if I said, okay, because let's say I didn't do the work that I needed to do from my childhood traumas, right? Then I would probably, lash out at people. And I would be doing everything. I would be like, well, this is, if it wasn't for this, then I, that and that. And, I've slipped. I personally still slip to this very day. But, it's okay. I understand that it's okay, and I'm grateful for things like that, because I'm able to see, and the very fact that I'm able to see and I identify that, okay, I'm still working on that, right? So, because during the winter time, it's really hard for me to get out and get grounded, right? So what I'm saying is that when I can't get grounded, and I've been working on this website and everything, plus my roommate situation is not the best. I'm dealing with somebody who lives in depression, who wants to put all their responsibilities on me. Like, I have to clean this house. I have to take care of this man's pets, because he won't do it himself, right? So I have to make time to not only do what I do, right, which is this, and trying to get my website together and everything like that, and get everything together and organized so that I'm able to keep track, and I have to hold myself together and hold myself responsible to appropriately take action and hold myself accountable for what I need to do, So to have the plans that I do and do what I do best, right? That's not always easy, especially now with the times that we're in, right? Because we are in very, very trying times, and I would love to say that it's going to get easier, and in certain ways, it will get easier, but heed caution, because where it's not going to get easier, right, is for those of you out there who are in denial. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. But when we as people don't hold ourselves accountable for our own projections onto others, right? And that's pointing the finger, that's blaming, that's, procrastinating, not doing what we need to do. It's not going deep within to do that deep search that we need to do in order to say, okay, like, for instance, I'll use myself as an example, because I don't have a problem doing that, right? Because I'm well practiced with what I do. I'm confident in my practice, so I don't mind sharing with you personal things. And the reason that is because I want to be able to help people as much as possible. And I know that it's hard, right? Nobody said it was going to be easy, okay? So that being said, there was a time in my life where I didn't want to deal with any of this stuff. Like, I didn't even know what the term spiritual awakening was, psychic awakening, what the difference between the two were. I didn't know any of that. There was a lot of stuff spiritually that I didn't understand was going on around me when I started my awakening journey in 2017, right after the Great American Eclipse, okay? So, I grew up with a lot of domestic violence, and, I watched my dad beat my mom, and I watched my mom start stuff with my dad. They were like fire starters between each other because they were both active. She was an active drug user. He was an active alcoholic or drunk, whatever you want to call it. Some people would say alcoholics go to meetings. There's a difference. And we know that's a joke, but I'm just lightening the mood a little bit, okay? So, anyways, I grew up in fear, okay? And if anybody understands what it's like to grow up as a scared kid and be scared, especially around grown-ups who fight all the time. I watched my dad try to set my mom on fire with gasoline. I was abandoned. I got left alone a lot. Here's one thing that I don't do. Once I learned how to process these things, and what do I mean by processing? What I mean by processing is the purging. What purging is releasing, right? It's being able to face these deeply embedded emotional wounds and cry it out. When we cry it out and we allow ourselves to naturally process, because it is okay to cry. I don't care if you're a man, it is okay to cry as a man. And anybody who told you that you are not allowed to cry as a man, that is horribly wrong. It's not right. We have these emotions for a reason. Our emotions, do you know and understand why it's important? Why our emotions are our power, right? This is why we have the term in the spiritual community a lot. You'll hear it a lot. It's important to become the master of the emotions. Why is that? Because when we ultimately process and we take the bigger, okay, for me, all the pains and all the traumas that I went through, right? Once I realized that it wasn't happening to me and it was happening through me for my highest good, then I ultimately understood. I was able to take a step back and look at things from a different perspective and say, you know what? They did these things, and I'm not blaming them for these things, but ultimately, you see for generations to generations, from the indoctrination, the false belief systems, the religion, the political system. It's all oppression. Okay? So for thousands of years, hundreds of years, we've had oppression and indoctrination, right? Because let's face it, if you weren't high class, you didn't know. Everything we've been taught our whole lives has been a lie. It's been a lie. Um, I have a lot of information that I could share. Uh, I'll do that in another episode. Uh, but basically I can share in another episode, and I'll prove a lot of the things that I speak on when I'm talking about the indoctrination, our actual freedom and rights. We're starting to see a lot of that come to the forefront now, but I don't want to get too far off subject. But keep that in mind, that I will bring that to the table and present it. Like the right to travel, stuff like that. How you don't actually need a license to travel, as long as you're not doing commercial traveling. So, but enough of that. That's a whole nother subject. But when I was able to step outside myself, right, because I did the healing work, by healing the traumas, understanding that these didn't happen to me, they happened through me, for me. Because when I understood that it was other people's projections, the way my parents were raised, the way that my grandparents were raised, and their parents were raised, so generation to generation, this it's been suffering that's been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and nobody having the correct way to actually cope and process these things that are happening through us, not to us. This is important to understand, because once we understand that, then we're able to step outside of ourselves, and we're able to see that, hey, I've only gained strength from this. Not once have I ever been broke down, and where I'm just, when you're too busy blaming other people for your problems, right? You're not ever going to fix the real issue. And that real issue is deeply embedded inside yourself, in your emotional body, right? The emotional body and the mentality does affect the physical health, okay? And it's unhealthy to deal with things in an unhealthy way when you don't know how to properly process these things. So with all the incoming energies, right, the whole collective humanity is feeling it as a whole. So if you're an empath, an indigo, you know what I mean. If you know, you know. Do your research. I'm not here to steer anybody the wrong way. I'm just here to share my story to better help understand that it's important that we face these things within ourselves so that we can release and heal. I like to call it spiritual body feng shui. Okay? Feng shui is out with the old, in with the new, right? Because look at it as in, okay, for an example, if any of you ever had a relative that's a hoarder, right? My grandma and my mom was one of these people. Have you ever tried to walk through a hoarder house? Holy shit. So people pack rats, there's stuff everywhere, and you're like, I need to get through. Like, what do I do with that, So when you have all this is also can be looked at as emotional baggage, right? When you have all this stuff, this clutter, this clusterfuck that's in our way, it's hard. You're not going to get the couch through the door, let alone through the hallway or the room with all the stuff in a way. You need to first move all this stuff out of the way, get rid of it in order to make clear passage, right? Well, the emotional body works the same way, right? And so does energy. So when we have stagnant energy pent up with us, within us, and we're holding that stuff in, this is what I call a bottle up. You're a ticking time bomb, in other words, right? So when we hold things in and we have resentment and we have regrets and, oh, poor me, why is everything happening to me, blah, 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 and, I'm so sick of life, boo fucking who, it's people. It's time to wake up and understand that okay, in order to have self-love, it requires self-care, okay? And the only way that we can achieve this, that you can achieve this, is by self-acceptance. It's being easy on yourself, for one. Don't beat yourself up because of the shit that you went through in life. And don't blame everybody else for it either, right? Because if it wasn't meant to be, it wouldn't be, right? Because we go through the things that we go through. If it wasn't meant to be, then it never would have happened, right? Everything that's happened through me in life, right, in my experience, I ultimately understand that I have gained my biggest strengths and virtues from this. It's what makes me who I am now. It's why I'm able to sit here before you and talk about the things that I'm able to talk to you about without being upset, without it becoming a thing that it's frustrating. I can't get it off the tip of my tongue, because I'm able to process. I'm able to think clearly because I understand where I'm at. I'm centered. I'm honed in, and I'm balanced. So that being said, I hope that makes sense. And I'll be doing more deep dives and delves on this subject. But for now, because of where we're at in the energy collectively, a lot of people are having a hard time processing because they're too busy projecting the illusion of self, because a lot of people are not holding themselves accountable for the unprocessed emotional baggage, okay, and the weight that is pent up. So acceptance is step one, right? When you can be honest with yourself and accept responsibility for the way that you feel, and rather than running away from it, facing it head on. Let me tell you something. It's a lot easier to face it. If only I knew what I know now, years ago, right? Things would be so much more fluid, right? Because in my past years, I wouldn't have had so much resistance. I was just being taught wrong, right? And that's okay. I understand that because I understand what I understand now, right? Things are bigger than us, okay? So the only way that we're going to ultimately be able to help each other out is by stepping to the plate and accepting responsibility for our actions, our emotions, and being able to process these things in a healthy way and being open about it, right? And not everybody's going to be cool with being open about it because they're not even open about it with themselves, ultimately. That's what that boils down to. So, that being said, I'm so grateful now because all the years that I've spent facing instead of running, when I finally said, you know what, enough is enough, what is it going to take for me to get this over with? Right? For me, it was the day when I said, okay, it's not everybody else's fault. I can't point the finger and blame this person or that person because it's not helping. The drinking, the drugging, none of that helps. It doesn't help. So ultimately, when I was able to man up, and I don't mean that in a sexist type of way, so don't take me the wrong way when I say that. It's just a term. That's it. So don't take that out of context, please. Because I know how many people can do that so easily. So when I was able to face myself and accept responsibility for my emotions, I was able to take that deep dive and really start to do the work, the inner work that was required for me to understand why I felt the way I felt because of the things that I went through in life. And therefore, when I faced them, I was able to embrace them and learn the bigger reason. That bigger reason, right, once I understood it, was that, I was pushing people away because I was stuck living in fear, right? So when I stopped living in fear was the day that I was able to face and accept responsibility for my actions, my emotions, and it was a lot easier to get the weight off my shoulders because that weight wasn't there no more. Okay? So to be easy with yourself for one, and be honest with yourself, that's a really big thing. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Especially with how everything is set up in our lives, day to day, but that system is crumbling. That system is crumbling. We're seeing it now. We're literally watching everything dissolve. Okay? So I'm going to leave that there for now. It's something to think about. And then I'm going to go into a poll, okay? Because I have other messages. Because I had synchronicity before I got to start this video. It was 444, and then I seen 517. So I really want to touch base on the numerology on that. And I'm going to do a pull from the Starseed Oracle deck as well as the Lightworker Oracle deck. So when we embrace our shadows and we do the inner healing work, we are healing our inner child. And when we heal our inner child, we have to remember Ho'oponoponopono. And for those of you who don't know what Ho'oponoponopono is, it's I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. Say this to yourself. Start with that. It's a starting point. Start with Ho'oponoponopono. I highly recommend it. It helped me so much throughout my journey. So I highly recommend doing that. You say that to yourself, whether it's in a meditation or while you're falling asleep, and then take note. I highly recommend journaling. If you don't have a journal, get one. Start taking note about how you feel. Especially after doing Ho'oponoponopono. Because if you go to sleep at night doing Ho'oponoponopono, and again, it's I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Okay? When you wake up, take notice of how much better you feel to go on about your day. And then after that, I want you to walk to your mirror and stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself and say, self, how I feel about it today, self? You ready to get today on, self? You feel good about it today, self? You know what I'm saying? And that's start your day like that. And see if you don't start noticing a change. I promise you will. You will. And start helping other people out. Like today. Like, I went out shoveling snow today, right? And because I had to get out of the house because I've been pent up in here, and it's dealing with somebody that lives in depression all the time and doesn't appreciate me for what I do. Ultimately, I understand why they are the way that they are, and I don't hold that against them, right? Even though that I got overwhelmed, I did get overwhelmed, and I haven't been there for a long time, God, and I kind of snapped on somebody, and I didn't mean to do that. I apologized to that person, and I accept the responsibility. I told him, I was like, I've been under it. Not making any excuses. That's me holding myself accountable, right? So when I got out to shovel snow today, I helped the neighbor across the street, and so I did our driveway, and then I helped the neighbor. I did all their driveway and helped the lady out down the street, and then I went out and made some money shoveling some snow in order to do what I needed to do. So I was able to get some exercise, which is good for me, get some fresh air, which even though my feet wasn't in the snow, I was able to release some way too much energy that I've had, going stir crazy. So, so there's that. And it's like, by doing so, I was able to get centered and feel good about myself. The very fact that I was able to hold myself responsible, that I shouldn't have reacted the way I did and stuff like that, we slip. We're human, right? We are human. Don't beat yourself up just because you slipped a little bit. Ultimately, it's okay, right? You'll have that. What's important is that you're able to call yourself on your own shit, right? Did I mean to react the way that I did? No, I didn't. But see, I allowed things to get to me, and because I wasn't grounded, right? And no, that's not an excuse. This is fact. Because when I'm grounded throughout the summer, like I'm there, right? Because I'm giving the negative energy to Gaia, and I'm transmuting that. But when I can't get out all the time, and this website thing has been, I just want to rip my hair out because I'm not this developer who's, and so where I was at, where it's, my WordPress had fatal errors, it crashed, and ever since I started this project, like it's been one thing after the other, like trying to figure it out, training myself, doing all these classes to do that on top of, the spiritual stuff, the processing of everything that, I practice. And here lately, like the past 3 weeks especially have been really difficult for me because I'm tossing and turning. I'm not sleeping right. Like, my diet's not that great, right? Because I can't afford to just, I can't go plant a garden in the middle of winter time, for one, so if I could, I would. Plus, I don't even, this ain't even my property, you know what I mean? Like, what I would give just to have my own place and be able to have my own garden and, harvest my own goods and, live off of that, live off the land. Like, I really just want to live off the land. Like, I don't give a shit about some cheeseburgers and stuff like that. Like, you won't ever see me go buy a cheeseburger and shit like that. But, if somebody offers it and I'm hungry, right, and I haven't ate that day, and that's what's available, then I'm gonna eat it because I don't want to sit there hungry either, right? So, but there's times where I'm not even hungry at all, and I don't eat nothing at all, right? There's times where I go days without eating, right? My main thing is intake of liquids and fluids, right? Like, I'm like a dog in heat. Like, I drink mad water. I drink mad fluids, energy drinks too. Like, oh my God, the battle with the Monster energy drinks. I'm trying so hard to get off these fucking things. And I was off of them for a minute too. Like, I was off of them for so long, and now I'm like back on it because it's like, I'm telling myself, oh, it's okay to reward yourself. You haven't had any in a long time. I'll go ahead and drink some of these, so I relapsed on energy drinks, and so I'm back on that battle, and I'll get it, but I'm telling myself an excuse. It's okay for me to do this because I haven't had it in a long time. Plus, I need the extra energy because I live with an energy vampire. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. I'm not blaming that person for real. It's just when I can't sleep, I'm using this to self-medicate. So, and that there is another example of accepting responsibility. Yeah, I could say no to that drink, but do I? No, because I love the flavor of that drink. But ultimately, I really don't even think I get any energy out of it, to be honest, yo. If I had it my way, I would have a crystal bottle water with the crystal inside, and I would drink that. I would drink that with some flavored water. I would much rather do that. But have you seen how expensive them motherfucking things are, for real? They are expensive, yo. Like, they're like $30-$40. Like, I would love to have a crystal bottle water, but I don't have it right now, Feel free to donate, by the way. I appreciate you. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause on this. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the reading. So stay with me. All right, I'm back. I almost forgot, and I'm glad that I didn't. It was brought to my attention from my guides. I actually got to read something for you. And it's called The Katabatic Journey. I have a book here that I obtained while I was in Colorado, and it was right after the blood moon eclipse, the super blood moon eclipse in Scorpio in my sign. Oh my God, you want to talk about, I was a huge crybaby. It was like somebody opened up the floodgates. That was me for 2 weeks straight afterwards. All right. Anyways, long story short, I couldn't stop crying, and I needed to really I wanted to turn the floodgates off. I was like, where's the knob at? Like, is it on the back of my neck? Where's it at? And I was just playing. But seriously, I could not stop. I was the biggest crybaby ever. And I just could not stop crying. So there was a spiritual shop that I went to in Colorado, and I got a frankincense candle made for me for Scorpio, and I burned that candle, and I found these books that are based on the zodiac signs, and I absolutely love this book, and in it is the Katabatic journey story, okay, and it deals with shadow and everything, and that's why I want to share it with everybody. So this Scorpio book, The Alchemist, the book series is called Living the Signs, okay. There's no author on here. However, Britton LaRue. So it's Brittenlarue. You can actually find these online. Tell you what, I'll find a link and put it in the description box. So anyways, now this is Scorpio and the Katabatic journey, but it does apply, right? So hear me out. Okay. In literary studies, there's a term that I've found for underground narratives. The term Katabatic is from the Greek katabasis, which literally means going down. It describes a narrative structure that includes a threshold crossing, a descent, an inversion, and then a reascent. I know this because I wrote a research paper on underground structures in Alice in Wonderland in another phase of my life. Let's look briefly at Alice in Wonderland. Now, see, that's crazy because a while back ago, I had a dream, right? And, you know, I was walking in like this desolate land, right? And there was rose petals everywhere. And it was black and red sand, rose petals everywhere. And there was two trees. There was one on each side. There was one on the left, there was one on the right, right? And when I approached these two trees, they had owls in them. And one was an all-white owl, if I remember correctly, and the other one was, I think, a barn owl. It was brown. I think that's a barn owl because it was smaller than the other one. And when I got to the two trees, that was like a doorway, really, right? It reminded me of Alice in Wonderland, right? And, you know, like that scene where Alice walks in through the arches to go meet the Queen of Hearts, right? And whatever. So, and I heard a term. I actually have it written down. I'll have to share that later because I don't remember it off the top of my heart. But anyways, it reminded me a lot of Alice in Wonderland. So that's kind of crazy that, you know, that's coming out there. Funny how spirit works, right? So Alice in Wonderland as a model for the Katabatic journey, which most people are familiar. And Alice, the threshold crossing, is Alice's entrance into the rabbit hole, movement through the tunnel, and fall through the well. The threshold refers to the precipice or bridge from the normal to the liminal. Everything before the threshold is ordinary life. Whatever has been set up by author as the per usual for the character. Ordinary is how we might describe phases of life where we just go about our business and don't feel like we're going through anything in particular. According to the katabatic structure, the descent refers to Alice's meanderings after the actual fall. Her efforts to get through the little door in the hallway to the garden outside, meeting the assorted characters throughout the journey, and experiencing various changes in size in the descent. Everything becomes strange. Alice has to unlearn the old rules. She meets frustrating challenges as she tries to apply above-world etiquette and reasoning to the underground. Things seem to break down, unravel, defy logic, and challenge her self-trust and sanity. Sounds like spiritual awakening. She is routinely humbled, perplexed, confused, and misunderstood. She wants to be a polite, good girl the way she was taught, but the underground seems to want something else from her. The inversion in the story is the moment Alice rejects the false rationale of Wonderland during the trial scene at the end of her adventures, the Queen of Hearts. Alice to hold her tongue. The Queen of Hearts tells Alice to hold her tongue, and Alice shouts, "I won't. You're nothing but a pack of cards. Who cares for you?" An inversion is a reversal. In Wonderland, people speak in syntactical reversals, and it feels chorusor and chorusor. I think I'm saying that right. Alice spends most of the journey trying to get people to understand, trying to get them to understand her. And in this moment, she stops trying. This is a climax in the katabatic journey because we get to witness the character taking their power back in some crucial way. She stops trying to negotiate, control, or force her way through like a child perfectly obeying the rules of her parents. The inversion can be any kind of aha moment, awakening, or healing experience that shifts and pivots the story. The reascent follows immediately thereafter when Alice awakes on her sister's lap and declares the whole thing a curious dream. The reascent is the return to whatever, home, is in the story. But now the character is changed. This is not the same Alice. Victorian custom required that the whole thing be resolved as a dream. But we might imagine that sweet Alice was likely not as rule-following or likely to put up with any disempowering nonsense after her journey through the underworld. In our lived experiences, it is often disorienting to return to the way things were after we experience a katabatic journey of some kind. Therapy is one of the ways in which we humans aim to contextualize and understand how to carry the ways we change and heal while still putting one foot in front of the other. Therapy comes from the Greek therapia, meaning attendance upon the gods. This suggests that what we seek in therapeutic modalities is the right deities, archetypes, principles, or stories to bring in for integration and healing. This is part of why I love astrology and the tarot and their related myths. You can call on the archetypes to attend to you to help you awaken into your full self. That I can agree with. Working with tarot all the years that I have taken the Fool's Journey, and is because the whole story of the Fool's Journey and tarot, the tarot is an entire journey of life, right? Learning lessons and facing consequences and learning the bigger meanings and everything, and eventually transmuting and becoming, stepping into our power after we give our power away, and we go into this hermit mode out of fear, and then we eventually we get tired of being in hermit mode, and we eventually say enough is enough, fuck that, I'm tired of it, and it's time to move on, because you can only stay stagnant for so long, you know. I mean, that's how it was for me. And then we're able to transmute and eventually become the magician, right? Because we analyze, we're able to see everything, become our own emperor, hone in our own power, take our power back, and then step into the King of Cups, which is Scorpio energy, where we master the emotions as mature adults or young adults, because some people do get shoved through very quickly. Not everybody's journey is as quick, is as slow. Everybody's journey is different. But nevertheless, I'm just saying that eventually, you get the world, and you can start bringing your dreams to life and seeing how manifestation really works. I'm just throwing this out there real quick because that's important to note, that to be the master of your emotions, right? The magician understands this, because when we learn lessons and we see the bigger reasons for things, when we do the shadow work, right, and we get all this gunk out and we transmute it for the better understanding, things that are bigger than us, we're able to therefore not only help ourselves, but we're able to help other people. And when we don't have all these things that are deeply embedded, that are prying at us constantly, and there's nothing stagnant, we're able to control our emotions, because we are therefore not overwhelmed, because there's nothing there to overwhelm us anymore. That's the beauty of facing the fears, right? The fears of what are we running from? That's the beauty, because when we face the fears and we process the emotions and we purge and we do the healing work, eventually we get to the surface of the deepest of, we get to the founding cause of the deepest wound, right? The wound, the mother wound of all wounds. And then we're able to heal the actual founding cause, the biggest one, right? That our inner child was scared the whole time, and it just wanted, it's not that we lost touch with our inner child, it's that we got ourselves to believe in an illusion that we weren't that kid anymore, because we had to do our daily duties, right? Because of how the system is set up. That's how it's set up, right? We're a rat in a race. So when we do that processing, we're able to, there's nothing there to overwhelm us anymore. And that's the beauty of facing it. It's so much easier to face it. And then you can see the beauty of life, because now that you're in control of your emotions, because you understand what they're really there for, they're there for us to understand, why do we feel the way that we feel? And ultimately, when we do that, emotions is the key. Emotions are our key power. That's our power. Emotions. Think about how you feel, right? Whether it's watching a movie and it makes you emotional or whatever. When you use emotional energy for spell work or manifestation, whatever it is, right? That is vibration. That is energy. And that is how you ultimately attract. So when you really hone in and you tap into these emotional bodies, you can channel that energy and transmute it for manifestation. That's magician energy, right? I just want to throw that out there real quick because that's fact, right? Okay. So integration and healing, astrology and tarot, and their related myths. You can call on the archetypes attend to you to help you awaken into your full self, which is step into your power, standing in, honing in on your authentic self, not something that's not really you. At the center of the mythology of Scorpio is the myth of Persephone and all of the related stories of journeys to the underworld. We could truly fill an entire book with these. Goal here is to draw forth what I feel is the potent truth that we need to know from them. I tell the stories in the old way, from memory and intuition, not as some kind of expert in a classical literature. Demeter, known in the Roman as Ceres, is the Greek goddess of agriculture and guardian of the fertility of the earth. She is also called the Great Mother. Demeter had a daughter named Persephone. Demeter loved her daughter more than anything. They were inseparable. Persephone blossomed into a glorious maiden, and side by side, mother and daughter oversaw farming and vegetation for the earth, and life was good. Venus, the goddess of love, was unhappy to see a young woman in her love-making age, still guarded by her mother. For Venus, this was an unacceptable block on Persephone's individuation. Venus conspired to have Hades, Pluto, lord of the underworld, take Persephone as his bride. One day, Persephone was away from her mother picking flowers. She was told to stay away from the narcissus flower, symbolic of sexual awakening. When Persephone was alone, Hades, Pluto, came up through a hole in the ground and snatched the maiden, bringing her back with him down into the land of the dead. Unable to find her daughter, Demeter began to roam the land with unfathomable despair, wailing in sadness, scratching at her face, pulling at her hair. Where is my Persephone? In her grief, she stopped tending to the land, and the crops began to fallow. The earth went on strike in the name of a broken heart. Eventually, Zeus, in other words, Jupiter, had to intervene. The humans needed to eat, after all. This couldn't go on. A deal was brokered with Hades, Pluto, to release Persephone in order to appease Demeter. Just before rejoining the above-ground world, Persephone tasted a delicious-looking pomegranate seed. Now, anyone who eats of the food of the underworld is bound to stay there, and so Persephone's passage was blocked. This was a hook for Persephone, and hooks are often intrinsic to Scorpio-Pluto underground themes. We get caught by seduction, lies, secrets, taboo desires. A compromise was made to allow Persephone to return above ground, but only for half of the year. Whenever she ascends, the world grows abundant fruit and grain. Whenever she descends, the world dies, and again and again. So we're talking about death and rebirth. The Persephone myth is rich in themes for us, and these often show up in the chart with the asteroid Persephone's placement, particularly in relationship to its angles to Pluto and the asteroid Ceres. Topics include Parents who cling to or fight over a child, issues with food and eating patterns like self-denial, withholding and deprivation, abduction or rape or some kind of violent masculine disruption, self-sacrifice, digging deep within to discover the roots of one's power, self-actualization after separating from a powerful mother or both parents, moving through the phase of grief, encounters with death and the spirit world at a young age, getting hooked or caught up in emotional intensities, and of course, the central theme, death and rebirth. Okay. What is often not discussed is the experience of this story from Persephone's eyes, as if her reality doesn't matter. Let us remember that though her life was disrupted against her will, she was able to experience an entirely new way of being, where she was queen rather than daughter. She was able to taste the pomegranate, something extraordinary, changing her forever. She became possessed with the rare ability to move between worlds. She became skilled at caretaking the dead and the roots of things in order to regenerate new life. That said, there is also some very real trauma in her storyline. Persephone believed the world to be safe until it wasn't. When one plunges into the underworld experience of loss, confusion, and terror, it can lead one into patterns of disassociation, victimization, addiction, and or retreat from the world. Trauma responses are about survival. The inversion for the Persephone within is the reclaiming of one's magical self. What was I saying? The lost child that had fragmented away in order to survive. The ascent often involves a life purpose that somehow channels and offers the rare gifts of underworld wisdom. So, do you relate to Persephone's story? Not everyone does. If you're like me, which, of course, this is the writer speaking, but I definitely relate to it. I'm sure a lot of you do too. And you feel yourself in this story, then Demetra George argues that when we heal from any Persephone stories in our youth, we are initiated then into the rites of rebirth and renewal. This is because we have to engage in forms of soul retrieval. That's why I'm into shaman work, because that's just a whole nother thing. Okay, so soul retrieval. We have to find and reintegrate the parts of the self with which we lost connection from some trauma in our youth. We are then able to become psychics, psychotherapists, trauma healers, creators, and very dear friends for other people, because we know the way between worlds, so to speak. It is Persephone, after all, who watches over the spirits of the dead to initiate them into new life. So, anytime you move through a katabatic experience of change, death, and renewal, you are invoking Persephone in some way, shape, form, or the other. I hope that helps.